Mrs. Orak, and this week I will be teaching your language arts lesson. So let me just tell you, I'm really excited, and I'm hoping that today, especially, that you guys are going to get up and moving around. Yeah, I know. You're like, what? No? What? Yeah, you are. So I'm going to be up and moving around. So are you. It's going to be really fun. Okay, here we go. Last time you watched a great lesson from Mrs. Mitchell, she taught about the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Okay, now we'll talk more about that later and more about that story. But right now, I want to focus on some things, some skills that you're going to use, okay, when we do the reading later. Okay, so what you're going to need: pencil, and you're also going to need your activity book. So go ahead and grab that real quick. Now, I'm going to do a couple pages with you, and we're going to kind of go rather quickly, so if you need a pause, please do. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to cover is on page 129 in your activity book. Today's topic is going to be a little bit interesting. It's on something called modal auxiliary verbs. Now, a modal auxiliary verb can also be called what we call a helping verb. Okay, now your whole life you're going to hear people say, make sure you use a helping verb. Well, this is where you're going to learn what those are. And modal, that interesting word modal, actually means mood. So having a helping verb, one of these auxiliary verbs, is going to add to the mood or your voice in your sentence, and it's going to be attached to your verb. It's right next to your verb. Okay, so let's take a look at a poster super duper quick, just to give you an idea of what these actually do. Now, here you're going to see, I'm going to grab my pencil. All right, here we go. So with your pencil, I'm going to show you with my pencil. Now, on this poster, it explains that a modal auxiliary verb is a helping verb, right? I mentioned that before, and it cannot stand alone. So you can't just have your sentence be have or can. It's just a helping verb. So you have to actually have the rest of the sentence in there, and you have to have a verb in there as well. It can't go without the verb. It never changes form. You do not need to add s for the third person singular subject. It is followed by a verb, which also does not change in form. For example, she can speak French. It will rain tomorrow. Right here, can is the auxiliary verb, or what we call a helping verb, okay? And if you're using it in present tense, like can is in present tense, I can read long chapter books. Now, you're going to notice can is bolded because it's the helping verb, and right here, read is the verb. You could also use could. I could, if it happened in the past, right? I could read 3 years ago. So you'd use could if it happened in the past instead of can. If you have cannot or can't, like down here, you could say I can't speak German. Or if it happened in the past, I could not, or I couldn't speak German, or I couldn't swim. These are some auxiliary verbs to express possibility, so it could happen. Now, you could say it will rain tomorrow, it may rain tomorrow, it might rain tomorrow, or it won't rain tomorrow. Okay, here we go. Now, it says right here that you're going to answer the following questions or find a classmate that can answer each question. Be sure to use the modal verb from the question in your answer. So it's going to give you the verb to use, or you're going to have to infer what the verb would be. And I and you, us, we are going to try out each question. Yeah, it's going to be super fun. So go ahead and take a look at this first question. Question number 1. Can you use chopsticks? I want you to really try. If you don't have 2 chopsticks, pause your video, go grab 2 pencils, 2 straws. My class has done this before, and some of them were really great at it. Some of my class or students were struggling with it. So we're going to see how well we do. Now, to use chopsticks, let's see if you can use them. In one hand, you're going to put your chopstick on the 4th finger, okay? And you are going to just rest it. And then you're going to kind of cup it with your thumb like this, okay? Kind of like if you were writing, exactly if you were writing. Now the second one, you're just going to take your 2 fingers, because now you're holding this like a pencil. Take your 2 fingers, your thumb and your pointer finger, and you're just going to lightly pinch the other chopstick. I'm not great at using chopsticks, but the question is, can you use them? It doesn't say, can you use them well? I'm going to try to pick up with my chopsticks rolled up crumpled piece of paper. I think it'll be kind of easier, hopefully, to grab. I don't know, we'll see. If you've ever eaten sushi, you know how to do this. So you're gonna take that, and then all you're gonna do is practice just moving the the pointer finger and also kind of moving the thumb, and you can also use the middle finger. So you're not moving the bottom part of your hand, just the top part. You're just using to tap, tap, tap. Okay, now, can you use pair of chopsticks? Yes. Yay, I did it. So that means that on question number 1, I got to go back to question number 1 in my workbook, my activity book here, and I get to type my sentence using the modal verb or the helping verb. So I'm going to say yes, comma, I can use chopsticks. Now, what if you can't use chopsticks? Then you would change this to I can't, apostrophe T, because it's a conjunction, can and not. I can't use chopsticks, but I'm gonna keep mine as can because I can use chopsticks. Okay, now here's the next one. And we're also going to try this one. Can you climb a fire pole? Guys, I don't have any fire poles near my house or in my house, and most of you shouldn't either. But I can climb a rope, so since I can climb a rope, but I can't climb a fire pole, I had to say no, comma, I can't, apostrophe T, climb a fire pole. Darn. Okay, next sentence. All right, next question, number 3. All right, now I want you to also be doing this with me, so don't forget. So now try this one. Who, or it's not you, who? So who can speak another language? So go around your house and see if, and ask a parent or a sibling, or maybe grandma or grandpa that can speak another language, or aunt and uncle. So I'm gonna think here. I have to ask myself, who can speak? Oh, I know, my brother Seth. I'm gonna say Seth. So yeah, he has the same name as the Seth in Mrs. Mitchell's class. Shout out to Seth, miss you, buddy. All right, Seth can speak another language. I could write that, or I could type the language he speaks. So I could say Seth can speak Spanish. Actually, I have 7 brothers, and 6 of the brothers speak Spanish because they all traveled and served missions for 2 years. And so 6 of them can, so that's kind of cool. All right, that's awesome. All right, question number 4. Remember, we're practicing with these modal verbs or the helping verbs, which is can before the verb speak, okay? Now, next one, number 4. Who can play an instrument? Wow, I can play an instrument. Let's see if Mrs. Orrock can do it for everybody. And if you can't play an instrument, ask someone in your family. So I'm gonna give it a go on my piano. This is just a keyboard, not an actual piano. Wow, this is really hard to get the recording to happen while I'm playing. So let's see if Mrs. Orrock can play the piano. All right, so we're back. Now remember at question 4, and so let's think, could Mrs. Orrock play the piano? Kind of. I'm gonna say Mrs. Orrock can play the piano, sorta. Now, if you found someone to play the instrument in your house, that's awesome. Go ahead and write down who it was, and make sure you include the helping word can or can't, okay, with the verb play. Now, number 5, here we go. Name one thing you could not do when you were 4 years old. 4 years old. I'm gonna be honest, I probably couldn't tie my shoes. So now you're gonna notice it says could not. So I have to use the word couldn't, okay? The conjunction of could and not together. Here we go. So I'm gonna say Mrs. Orrock, okay? You're gonna type your own name. Mrs. Orrock couldn't tie her own shoes. So remember, couldn't is the helping verb or the auxiliary verb, and tie is the verb. Remember how we talked about the possibly auxiliary verbs or the helping verbs? Now these are things that could happen possibly. Now the sentence says the dark clouds in the distance are coming closer and closer. Will it be won't rain, it will rain, or it might rain. Now if they're just coming closer, we're going to say might. So you're just going to choose the one that you think would work. Okay, so I picked might. Number 2, I'm not going to do all these, so I'll let you finish them on your own. Number 2, Janet did not get enough sleep last night. She be a little grouchy today. So I'm going to think, what could that be? So is it going to be she may be a little grouchy today, or she will be grouchy, or she can? So can won't work, doesn't sound right. Go with the one that sounds the best. Okay, I'm going to say she. I'm going to say she will. She will. Okay, because if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to be grumpy. All right, my cute friends. So the next page you're going to want to be on is we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit. I wanted you to do that page 129, 130 first, but now we're going to go backwards to page 125, okay? 125, I'm going to pause every once in a while. I'm going to help you fill out some of them, and we're going to pause and do a quick learn. Now on this page, and on the next couple pages, we're going to be talking about different literary devices. And if you're wondering, but what's a literary device, or maybe you've forgotten because your teacher most likely talked to you about it already this year. A literary device is basically a technique that a writer uses in their writing. Okay, and so since we're reading other people's writings, they're using that literary meaning literature, okay? And they're using that device when they're writing literature to make it more interesting and engaging and cool to read, okay? All right, so the first one that we are going to talk about is simile. So on number 1, okay? Number 1 is a simile. We know, and we've practiced this plenty of times this year, that a simile uses like or as to compare two things, okay? So I'm gonna show you what a simile is in this fun little video. You ready? With white or as he dropping similes, taking little steps like a centipede. He's sharp like a laser, sharp as a razor. In the night as dark as Darth Vader. Duke and juke and adjust his position, contrasting two things in juxtaposition. So in that video, you should have, it was really quick. I don't want to play the whole thing for you. I just want you to get a gist of what a simile is, and as a reminder what a simile is. So remember, in the video and even on here, it says it's like using like or as to compare two things. So right here in our story of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, this is an excerpt coming from that story. It says a drowsy, dreamy atmosphere hangs over the valley as if it were under the sway of some bewitching power. So the two things it's comparing here, it's comparing atmosphere to being under the sway. If something were to sway under a bewitching power, meaning bewitching means it's magical, right? What two things were being compared in the simile? So we're saying the two things that were compared were the atmosphere and the sway of some bewitching power. Now, since we're answering, we're not going to require you here in this answer to be in a complete sentence. Now that it says, what mood does this simile convey about the setting? To me, it means that the setting is haunting. The setting is haunting or magical, right? Because that's what bewitching means. The next literary device is hyperbole. Yep, I said it right. Hyperbole. It's a literary device that uses exaggeration. I want to show you the funny video that explains this. My bag weighs a ton. I had to wait in the station for 10 days, an eternity. I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. Yeah. I know you heard of me. The best figure of speech, hands down, hyperbole. I'm the one that similes yearn to be. I'm brighter than an Ivy University. I'm used universally, well maybe not quite. It might not be true, but it sure sounds nice. John Henry and Paul Bunyan both owe me a little something. Words have a literal meaning when they mean exactly what they say. And words have a figurative meaning when there's something more that they want to convey. That's me.
I exaggerate. I make it seem bigger, better, more. I've been known to tell a tall tale or two, just to leave them in stitches like tailors do. Yeah, I pop up and pop up bad in a couple of supermarket rags. No, the truth never bothered me. I'm hyper speed, hyperbole. Made the big blue ox can eat in one day. All the seed, one fruit, and toast to camp in a year. That's me. Hyperbole, exaggerate for effect. Certainly, build intensity and urgency. Hyperbole, I know you heard of me. Not hyperbole, exaggerate for effect. Certainly, build intensity and urgency. Hyperbole, I know you heard of me. Now, why in the world would all these folks use me in their writing, speaking, and jokes? Authors can use hyperbole to emphasize the stature and the size of these characters, so they come alive. Take Johnny Appleseed, a real guy who's walked barefoot a lot, okay? So his feet were calloused, and they say if a rattlesnake bit his feet, that snake would die immediately. Ha! That's hyperbole, used to convey Johnny's toughness, see? Or ask any preteen, certainly. Hyperbole conveys urgency. And if I don't get to go to the mall tonight, I'm literally going to die. Not literally, but is it a lie? But it shows how deep he feels inside. And marketers use it all the time to get you to buy and buy and buy. World's best pizza, and yet.
All right, so I'm going to stop the video there. I will link the videos if you want to watch them on your own. I'm not going to finish all of them because I want you to do it on your own if you want to finish them. They're pretty funny. All right, so in that hyperbole video, remember it taught you about exaggeration. And if I'm saying, I am the best piano player in the whole world, that means I'm using an hyperbole, an exaggeration. So if you ever hear someone saying that they're the best at something in the entire world, you can even tell them, yeah, you're not, because that's a hyperbole, okay? They're exaggerating. All right, so in this example or excerpt from our Sleepy Hollow, it says, in this out-of-the-way place, there lived a teacher by the name of Ichabod Crane. His name was well suited to him. He was tall and very lanky, with narrow shoulders, long arms and legs, and hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeves. So the hyperbole here is hands. He had hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeves. Okay, guys, for realsies, no, he did not have hands that dangled a mile. That would be humanly impossible. So really, this is hyperbole. It's exaggerating. What it really means, it says explain the hyperbole in your own words. What it really means is that Ichabod, our main character here, has very long hands. Okay, you can even add our little period there if you want. Ichabod has very long hands. I'm not going to require you to write the page number because I know it's kind of hard to go back and forth between the reader and this. That's why I'm wanting to do it there with you. And the last one I'm going to talk to you about is on number 4. Yep, we skipped on over to number 4. We're going to go straight to personification. I love this one. Personification is a literary device in which human characteristics are assigned to non-human objects. Okay, so let's learn what it is.
They say there's a man in the moon and Mother Nature's probably sick with all the stuff that we're doing. Really? Okay, that's not literally true. Nature's not a lady and the moon is not a dude. But when you give human qualities to creatures, ideas, or objects, then you are using personification. Personification. Drop it in when you write, make it part of the equation. I could say the wind blows, that's fine, but that line isn't gonna blow anybody's mind. Let's personify the wind. I'll rewrite it as the wind whispers in the tall grass. I personified the wind. It's a figure of speech. That wind isn't literally whispering to me. I don't care if it's not literal. Admit it. That second line is way more vivid. Like when the farmer put his pick in the soil, he was amazed to see that the earth bled oil. I don't use it all the time. My writing would hate me. I use it from time to time. Now my lines want to date me. See what I did there? Yeah, that's pretty clever. I said my lines want to date me. Right, so I personify my lines. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Pretty
I'm not lying. When I'm personifying, I get something not human, a human ability. Hold you told into my heart. The open road called to me from the start. I'm not lying. When I'm personifying, I get something not human, a human ability. The one that changed her mind again. The little car grown as we all piled in.
Personification's a useful tool when authors want to set a certain mood, like the astronaut tried to steer, but regardless, his ship hurtled on, swallowed by the dark. Yo, that's a little freaky if I'm being honest. I can picture the dark closing in around the rocket. By using personification, the author fosters a mood of gloom and doom. Plus, she increases the sense of suspense, so stay sensitive to these sentences.
I hope you enjoyed that personification video. So remember, it's giving non-human objects human qualities or characteristics. And that non-human object can be alive, like a cat, or can even be something that's not alive, like a car. Now, in this excerpt from our Sleepy Hollow story, it says, "What fearful shapes and shadows jumped across his path? How often did he dread to look over his shoulder for fear of catching a glimpse of some ghostly being close behind him?" All right, so what it's talking about here in the personification, it's saying that the shapes and shadows jumped across the path. Now, no, these things are not alive, so they can't actually jump. So yeah, the answer to that first one, it's the shapes and shadows, right? Ooh, I want to spell that right. Explain the personification in your own words. So to me, what it means is that the shapes and shadows made, I can even capitalize this since I'm actually going to be putting in a complete sentence here. Shapes and shadows made the path scary by jumping, because it said they were jumping, or they jumped. Okay, I'll say jumping here to make it fit in the sentence. Okay, all right, so that is the answer to number 4. Guess what, my friends? That is all you have to do in your workbook today. Happy day. If you haven't finished the other parts that I skipped, I want you to go ahead and finish those, so you can pause the video and do that. I hope you enjoyed learning about our 2 big topics today. The first one being modal auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. For example, I can empty the dishwasher. I can clean my room. Okay, so can being the helping verb. And then the other thing we learned about, the second thing we learned about, were literary devices. We learned about similes, hyperboles, and personification. Now, using all this information that you have in your brains, you are going to go to your reader. Okay, I'm going to open it up and start reading for you. So you are welcome to pause the page and read. I won't read all of it, but I'm going to start it for you. But I do want you to go to your reader and read, okay, reread the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where you're going to identify some helping verbs in there, and you're also going to identify some literary devices. Remember, you're going to look for similes, hyperboles, and personification. All right, let's give it a go. All right, my friends, remember, in your electronic reader, you're going to find the story where it says The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and it's on page 64, so you'll want to look at that on the bottom. Okay, here we go. We're going to go ahead and start. Not far from the eastern shore of the Hudson River is a little valley known as Sleepy Hollow. A drowsy, dreamy atmosphere hangs over the valley as if it were under the sway of some bewitching power. Remember, that was our first simile that we found. The valley abounds with local tales, haunted spots, and twilight superstitions, but the dominant spirit, which means like the most important, the biggest ghost, that haunts the region is the sight of a ghostly figure on horseback without a head. It is said to be the spirit of a Hessian soldier whose head was carried away by a cannonball during the Revolutionary War. The ghost is said to ride out nightly to the scene of the battle in search of his head and to return to the churchyard before daybreak. In this out-of-the-way place, there lived a teacher by the name of Ichabod Crane. His name was well suited to him. He was tall and very lanky, with narrow shoulders, long arms and legs, and hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeves. Remember, that was the example of hyperbole, because he had really long hands. It says They were out of his sleeves for a mile. They dangled out for a mile, which is a hyperbole and exaggeration. He had huge ears, large green eyes, and a long nose. To see him striding along on a windy day with his clothes fluttering about him, one might have mistaken him for a scarecrow. So he's very, very skinny. From his schoolhouse, his pupils, meaning his students, could be heard reciting their lessons. They were occasionally interrupted by the voice of the master or the sound of his switch. A switch is a stick. They used to hit your hand, ow, when you are being bad. Okay, we don't do that now. Thank goodness, according to custom, Ichabod Crane was boarded and lodged at the houses of the farmers whose children he taught. He lived with each family a week at a time. His arrival at a home caused great excitement, for the ladies thought his tastes and accomplishments superior, meaning more important, to those of the rough country farmers. He had read many books. Guess what, right here, there's a lot of them already, but I'm just noticing this is our helping verb. That's our modal auxiliary verb. He had, and then the verb is read many books. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop there because I want you to keep reading in your electronic reader. And it's not very long, it's just a fun story. I love this story, especially around Halloween time. And you're gonna go to read that and identify things that we already learned about today and talked about. Don't forget to do your exit ticket, okay? And I am excited to see you guys tomorrow. You have a great day. Bye.